My name is Adebite Joshua Oluwatimileng with the tab code tab 2.2.025.112LE.20.A0010. I'm a beneficiary of the TAP program from the batch 20A. I've undergone the intellectual capacity building, which is the first arm of the whole TAP program. We're told at the inception of this program that TAP is divided into three. One, intellectual capacity building, economic capacity building, and leadership capacity building. I would proudly love to say a thank you to the organizers of this program, as I've learned a lot from the intellectual capacity building. It has firstly opened my mind to several things I didn't know. Two, it had corrected mindset that I had wrongly. And three, it has sharpened my mindset to think more proactive and more intellectual than I would have ever done without taking this course. The whole course training was broken into 6 models, which are introduction to the concept of knowledge, under which I learned about the various sources of knowledge. We can get knowledge, practical, acquaintance, and factual. I learned on various sources of knowledge. I learned on approaches to epistemology when empirism and rationalism was clearly explained. Empirism is knowledge gotten from experience, and rationalism is knowledge gotten from reasoning. These two different arms of empirism, of epistemology, was explained. Skepticism was later brought off on its various forms: absolute skepticism, academic skepticism, limited skepticism, phenomenal skepticism. And this helped me to open my eyes to see that beyond seeking knowledge, learn to critically analyze things. This is intellectual growth. From that module, I was taken through the introduction to the concept of intelligence, when I learned more about intelligence, about the 6 steps process of critical thinking: observe, analyze, evaluate, question, conceptualize, and reflect. This helped me to understand that beyond even what we're taught under the 4 walls of an academic university program, intellectual capacity building is necessary for us. Why? My intellect was sharpened under the introduction to the concept of intelligence. I was later taught introduction to inductive reasoning, where the concept of inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning were properly sharpened out. Deductive is moving from general to particular, while inductive is moving from particular to general. This opened my mind to so much things I didn't know, to talk of even them having exceptions. I've heard of this concept before back then on campus, but to know that inductive reasoning also have exceptions, and deductive also have exceptions, and how to use this on our daily activity, and how this affects us on our day-to-day activity is something noteworthy. Under the introduction to the concept of intelligence, if I won't forget, I learned on fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. I learned that fluid intelligence reduces as we grow older, while crystallized intelligence, which is the accumulated. That's why a proverb in Yoruba tells us that you might have more clothes than an elder, but you can't have much rag like that. That was talking of crystallized intelligence because it is accumulated over time. Went further to learn on introduction to bounded rationality in behavioral economics. This brought out another perspective of the classical view of economics, and every individual wants to maximize its utility, that is rationality. But there are some limiting factors that can hinder an individual, which is time, information, and intellectual reasoning. That linked it back again to the concept of intelligence. We were looking at the conscious and the unconscious. It was interesting how each of these concepts were linking together to boost my intellectual capacity, how I look at things and how things should be examined. I learned so much that these factors can limit us from taking the best of rational decisions as we want. Finally, the intellectual capacity building ended on introduction to discerning points of views and its impact of African consciousness. I learned that as an African child, I should be proud of my origin, because many of the stories we are told were stories that were interpreted to make us feel inferior. Quoting the words of one of the great writers we have in history, who says, if Africa wouldn't change our mindset, if there will be a 3rd, a 4th, 5th, and 6th world, we would always find ourselves there. Why? Because our mind have been imprisoned to think that we are inferior to some others. Talk of the colonialism that happened during the Berlin conference, which was the assignment we were giving, and how I learned that it was all planned to further take over Africa and enslave us, due to the desires of the British, France, and other countries then to gain dominion under Africa, which was blessed with so much resources. Africa is blessed with so much resources. Our fathers did so much back then. Talk of the Great War that was built, talk of the various pyramids that were built in Sudan, in Egypt, talk of mineral resources that are abundant in Africa. Africa is blessed. I'm proud to be an African. If our fathers back then, under the hand of colonial masters and all, could achieve so much despite colonial forces that were strong limiting forces, how much more now, whereby we're in the 21st century and we have lots of opportunities to leverage and learn from many top African leaders, top leaders in the world today that came from Africa. I would say the world depends on Africa. The world can't survive without Africa. And I find myself as an active player in seeing that Africa takes a full place and Africa excels in whatever it does. Thank you so much to the organizers of this program. I'm proud and so happy to have gone under the first arm of this training. I anticipate the other arms of this training as I keep getting sharpened in order for Africa, one as Nigeria, to be able to have dominion and provide solution to many problems we have. In order for Africa, secondly, to gain its stand in the world, and in order for us to stand out nationally, globally, as a strong force for the world. Thank you so much once again. I remain Adequate Joshua. Thank you.